Hello, everyone. This is Helgari. We're just going to be doing some coding on the Nexus Mods app today. Start some music up here. To my main. There we go. YouTube's still playing. Fantastic. All right. So we're trying a couple different things with the streaming here. I want to start streaming more often, which I have been past couple weeks. 3 times a week or so, a couple hours, and just kind of going through what we're working on the app, and yeah, hanging out for a bit. So today we're actually getting ready for a upcoming release of the app, a alpha release, but like we try to release every couple weeks, 3 weeks or so. And we've had some reports of just some issues with items not deleting correctly and that sort of thing. So we're going to be taking a look at that. First thing I'm going to do is get some stuff set up here. Just 1 second. Switch my video over. Get some information here. All right, cool. So we've reset the app. It's actually on the list really soon to make it so that we don't have to clean out our data store so much, that we can actually have updates to the data model, which would be fantastic. Hello, everyone. A couple people in chat today. That's good. Okay, so we're building. What we're going to do is I think I gotta actually clean this build before I do it again. We're gonna install some collections for Cyberpunk, delete the mods, make sure that all works, because the reports are that doing like bulk changes to the loadout results in it not doing everything. You select 100 files to delete, it doesn't delete them all. So we're gonna see if we can take a look at that. We're still getting a strange error here, interestingly enough. Missing a file, a project reference for some reason in our main build. I think that's all it required, is that we didn't import the file extractor. I'm not sure how that got through the CI process, but it did somehow. All right, so the build succeeded. Now let's actually run it. We'll log in. We'll install a medium-sized collection here that I know works, and then see where that gets us. This is certainly taking its sweet time. I wonder what's up with this. Wow, just took a while. You know, it's interesting. Sometimes when building software like this, the Windows Defender gets involved and has to upload files and check them out and that sort of thing. So that's often what I blame for that sort of thing. So we're going to log in, add Cyberpunk. Oh, that's right, my game folder's dirty, but that's fine for now. Okay, so I'm off screen, lest I violate some sort of community guidelines for YouTube. I'm going to add a collection. So we'll see this start to download here. The mods are coming in. We have a whole bunch here. Once this downloads, we should see it install. There's about 250 mods, so I think they are actually pretty much downloaded. We just got a couple left. We'll see. Looks like that was maybe the last one. It's analyzing that file. Cool, and there they install. We got one faux mod pop up. We are working on this experience. This is not final. Okay, so that installed. We see Welcome to Night City up here as an installed collection. And so first of all, a problem we do have is this one here. That is an interesting thing. It did install them, I would assume, because all we see is one screen worth of data. But the install, it didn't switch to installed versus install. Now if we go to Welcome to Night City here, sure enough they are all installed. And I realize we got some weird alignment there, we're working on that. If we go back here, they are all in fact installed, except for this one here. Spicy Clean Hack Scene. Oh, is this a one with a weird faux mod? We might have only gotten the first faux mod of that. Yeah, that's another problem. So clean versus clean and green. And finish. Okay, so it is fully installed now. So that would be one problem that we should definitely take a look at, is that when installing a collection, it installs them all, but doesn't show more than one screen's worth of them being installed. If we go here into this Welcome to Night City, and we hit remove. So this is another thing, like only these were selected. So I definitely selected everything. Now, okay, cool. And then if we hit remove, they do remove. Okay. And install here is they are not installed anymore. If we go ahead and select all of these, verify that they are all installed, and then hit add. We get the faux mods again, which is expected. Go to My Mods. Everything's installed. The collection itself is empty because we installed these as individual mods. And then if we go through this again, yep, they are all installed. Incidentally, this is something I'm pretty happy about, is the performance of this install is pretty fast. Like we just installed, what was it, 250 mods in just a few seconds, which is kind of cool. So, I don't have a pen here, I should write this down. Two things we need to look at is when the collection installs, the things that are off screen don't update. Let's take a look at that first. So let's make a new branch here. Fix bulk UI audit teas. So what we're going to do is first of all look at these library item model. So this is the class that backs that row of the library item. And what I want to look at is what it is that changes the install versus installed. So we are getting the number of linked loadout items. And then we observe when the count is changed. And then we set the installed versus installed based upon that. Now, I think one of the problems here is that when this links up, we may not be priming this with the correct value. So let's see what this linked loadout items is initially set to. So initially it's set to a null an empty list, which would make sense that it would default to being empty. And then what sets this? So we'll do find usages on this. And actually, let me zoom the screen in so people can see better. So if we find usages here, we have this usage, which is where we actually read the value. We have another usage, a read usage there. I think this is where we set it. So we get the change set and we apply it to that linked loadout items. But this subscription only happens inside of the subscribe, which is correct. So when the row activates, we will subscribe and look for changes. But I think one of the issues may be that this value here is not primed, meaning that our streams of data in the UI are based off this like push-based model that a user pushes a button and it adds a new item to a collection. We get a notification there's a new thing in the collection, and then we push that data through the UI. But there also there needs to be a jumpstart process to that. It's something that reads the initial value, because I think we will find that in this code nothing calls this the first time until it changes. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but we'll take a look. So initially, it is set to an empty set. And what uses this? What writes to this value? So we have this Nexus mods provider. We have this observable, get linked loadout items.
I'm telling you, there is no exit. We're stuck here.
And then we set it here as well. And what are the two methods for that? One of these is in the library item model for library file and for the mod page. So we won't want the one for the library file itself, which is what we're looking at. Is it though? No, we were looking at the mod pages. The top level in that entire row is the mod page, and we are looking at that one. The underneath that is the individual files on the page. So if we look at the let's see here, mod page metadata, we are setting this linked items observable. So we're going to this cache. Now that's interesting. I'm not exactly sure what that cache means, but we should take a look at that. And we merge the change sets for that. And then we filter for the specific loadout. So if this cache is not updating, then none of that would get triggered. So we create this source cache here. We're not disposing this either, which is a problem long term. So let's look at why we need to observe this change. So within our system, we have a Nexus mods library item. So we have a library that contains all the downloads, and some of those link to a mod page. And we're trying to link that up to that mod page so we can in turn down here link it to items in the library that connect to that. So it's a join of two live data sets. And for some reason, that isn't being handled properly. What's kind of interesting about this, let's start this app up again. Because let's do a little more testing. what I find odd is that it's only the things that aren't on the screen. But if we move away and come back, then it does show up. Because that means the initial query is correct. But the updating is not for items that are off the screen. Which does not make a whole lot of sense to me. So here in the installed mods, let's tell you what, we're going to do a full panel like this. We're going to do side by side. We have the library. So what we should expect to see is as I delete this here, I would expect all of these to turn into install versus installed. So I'm going to remove. That worked. Now, if it is broken the way we would expect, as we scroll down, these should not be installed. It should not have changed, but they do, which doesn't make sense. If we bulk install this, does it update correctly? It does not. Okay, so that's good. Part of debugging in code like this is you create a hypothesis, you try to find a way to prove or disprove that hypothesis, and then you kind of restart over again. There's actually a really good YouTube video called Debugging with a Scientific Method by, drawing a blank on his name. I used to work with him. Let me look it up real quick. But it's really good. And it talks about this process of like you create a hypothesis, try to find ways of proving and disproving that. And if you have an idea of what the problem may be and something just completely disproves that, then clearly you have the wrong hypothesis and you need to refine it. So I'm going to look here real quick. Stuart Halloway. Apologies to Stuart, guy I used to work for. But it's a fantastic talk. I highly recommend it. But anyway, what we have seen here is that we can bulk install mods in two ways. One is in the library, and one is with collections. We are noticing the same behavior with both of those, even though they kind of install with separate pieces of code. So we know that the problem is not necessarily in how we are installing them, but how we are observing. It's kind of on the read side here. The files themselves are in fact installed. We get updates for them. It just seems to be additions, like switching to, So these are all installed. Yeah, these are all installed here. If I close that tab and open another one, we see that they're all installed. So the initial loading works. When we uninstall them, things that are off screen update correctly. I'm going to try just a couple more things here. If we bulk remove, like we did before, oh, that didn't work this time either. That was different than before. Because here, these rows updated. And before they didn't. All right, we're gonna do this again. See if we can replicate this yet again. So nothing is installed. We select everything. We add it in. And don't worry, it's not downloading the files every time. That would be horrible. So this page shows installed. These are not installed. Although they are, but you know what I'm saying. So now, if we go back to this library again, they're all installed. This time, we have not scrolled down. Because the other hypothesis I have here is that scrolling down loads and binds up some of these rows. And so I'm going to, in this case, I'm going to not scroll down so we can see if that makes a difference. Because what our hypothesis so far is that the rows don't update, but they load correctly, right? Reloading the entire page makes it work. Any sort of updates don't quite work if the row is off screen. As we're scrolling through this list, it is lazy loading the rows. So it would make sense then that if we do this and do a bulk delete, we would expect to see everything. Yeah, it all works. Yeah. So it is the updating of the rows that causes the problem. This is weird. I mean, one of the things we can do is put some debug information, like debug print statements in here, and try to figure out where this is going wrong. It could be we're observing the wrong datum. So let's look at this. So but we're initially loading the correct data, so that doesn't make sense to me either. Unless this is somehow not activating. So let's think of what the connection that we are cutting in this case is the connection between the loadout items and the mod page. We are adding and deleting loadout entities that link to a library item that links to this mod page, which is this one right here, where we're looking for a linked item. Okay, so we have a cache up here, and this cache is set to all of the Nexus mods library items. No, it's set only to the ones that we care about. It is set only to the mod pages that have the ID that we are talking about. So that's what the cache is. A specific mod page. Now, here we are saying look for any library linked loadout items that link to a specific the library item ID links to the ID here. Okay, so this cache will be all of the library items that reference the specific mod. And then here we're looking for any loadout items that reference that specific library item. Okay, so the data matching up there, the joining is correct. And then we are filtering on this library filter. Let's take a look at this. So this filter on observable loadout just says we are looking for any library, the linked items we're looking for have to be in this specific loadout that we're looking at. And then the rest of this is just wiring it up. We look for changes. Filter on observe the library filter. Query when changed. And we prepend false on this. So the first time we get a value, it's going to be false. I want to say that's a problem. Because this is saying that we start with a value of false. And then we look for anything that is not false. I mean, we could just try that. What happens if we remove that part of it? Because we shouldn't necessarily need it. Most of these other streams of data will prime themselves with the first data set. Like when you first connect to them, they'll give you the current state, and then they'll give you delta updates off of that. So I don't think we need the prepend, but I'm also not sure that it would hurt. So let's look at installed mods. And then let's add. All of them. We want to make sure we replicate this the right way. So we're going to add. We are going to kill that panel and open up a new library panel. Everything's installed. We're not going to scroll down. We are going to delete everything. Okay, everything's selected. Hit remove. That worked. It might have been the prepend false. So let's try this again. Let's select everything. And then let's add. I think we can even test this another way. If we load up the library here, we should see these change. We add that all installed. Cool. And then if we scroll down, everything's installed. Good, good. We're going to add yet another panel with a library. I'm just trying to get all the different cases here of like where something would be installed or not installed and that sort of thing. So we'll select all of these. We'll remove. Everything updated on all the screens. Scroll down, everything's installed. Ah, nope, that didn't do it. This did. Which is interesting because I think this is the one we just added where the value is, the rows were not seen yet. Interesting. Okay. When all else fails, what you do is you start putting debug statements in. Select. We're just going to return X, and we're going to do debug.write line. Okay, so I would expect here, when we do these bulk installs, I would expect to see this number change from 1 to 0 for like 200 items. If we only see it for like 20. In fact, we can make this problem even worse. Let's do that by if we scroll it like this, and then we go to installed mods. I'm making the window super small so that only a few of the items will load at a time. Okay, so we're going to select all the items, add them. We should get the 2 FOMod installers. Yep. Cool. Now we're going to reload our library. And then we are going to Bulk delete all of this. Okay. So that gives us the install button. And everything's working here. Now, what did we see when that happened? We should have seen, oh, in our debug window, debug output. Oh, we're not running in debug mode? Well, that would be part of it then, probably. What's kind of weird about this is that these items only show properly when they load, like the first time. They don't update properly. But the rows that aren't in view haven't loaded yet. So what, you know, that doesn't make sense. So we'll do this sort of thing again. Add. Just for fun, we are going to create a new panel of the library. And we're going to remove all these. Oh, interesting. We are getting an error on this get created at. Oh. That would crash this entire pipeline. That would be a problem. Gotta remember this song. This one's good. Let's crank it up a bit. So in this case, we don't have, let's see. We are looking at a entity that doesn't exist. And that's why we can't get the created at, because it's been deleted. It's kind of like we've made this big update by deleting all the mods, but we're not able to detach from it yet. Now this is nested loadout item. This is part of the loadout item screen. Maybe this doesn't matter a whole lot. But let's just fix this, just for fun. Let's see who uses this method. It is used in a couple places here. And here we just do like a max. So I think what we'll do is this get created at. We can do either try get created at or just return a nullable date time in this case. Mm-hmm. I think we'll do it. Only used in a few places, right? It's actually used in several places. We'll just give it a default value. Date, time. So the problem here is when we try to get the, let's see, the minimum value. What was that error? So it's the minimum t value from the model, but if the model itself has no values whatsoever, then there's no ability to get the t value. So what we want is a quick check on this. If the count equals 0, then we'll do, there we go, yeah, the date time or the min value. A default value to return if, yeah, empty if the model doesn't exist. Cool. So now if we debug this, we should be able to not see that exception. It's going to take a while to initialize this again, but oh, this is definitely taking its sweet time and starting. All right, let's try this again. Let's go to the library. So we have the library open. Let's look at our mods. I would expect not to see that error we saw before. So we'll add the mods. This app just runs a lot slower in debug mode. I mean, that's part of what it is. Next, finish, so on and so forth. Okay, cool. So they are all installed. Now let's do what we did before and go back to the library. Select all of these here and hit remove. Man, that's slow. Okay, deleted everything, and it shows it all as deleted. Now, I mean, it could be possible that some of this wasn't working because the pipeline crashed, the update pipeline crashed when the file was removed. That would make sense. Did we get debug output here in our debug? So false. They went from true to false. We got the correct number of updates there. Okay, so let's do this. Let's go back to that where we added that debug print line. Debug.writeLine. Let's delete this. Still don't think we need the prepend false. So we're going to start this, and we're just going to go through this again and see if we can get this error to reoccur. All right, so like before, go to our installed mods. Bulk add. Cool. Everything's installed. Open a new library. We're going to scroll all the way down and all the way up on this one. This one we're going to remain at the top. And we're going to do a third panel that's kind of the same way. And then we're going to select all of these mods. Okay. and hit remove. Okay, looks like everything uninstalled. Good there, not good there, and good there. What the heck? All right, let's do that again. This is pretty hilarious. I think I have this set to stop on all exceptions, which is what I want. Make sure here. Nope. Okay, so from now on, oh, we want to mute that one. Cool. So let's view our mods. Let's install everything. Okay, mod. So we do have this exception. Loading an image cache. Not sure what observable this is and what stream this is. I think this is part of the faux mod install, so we'll ignore that one for now. Okay. So that one, like we see the same thing here. Like half these just didn't update at all. Can we install everything again and see if that works? Oh, because we hadn't finished installing it, so we get multiple pop-ups. Yeah. Okay, so everything's installed. Let's add 3 more panels for the different variants of this library thing. Cool. Now we're gonna go all the way up here and delete everything. Remove. Oh, this is gonna be slow. Wow, this is weird. Because it's like some of these updates aren't even getting triggered. All right. So let's recap where we're at in the hopes of making some sense as to what is going on here. So, to start with, we are going to load this up again, try to reduce the problem down. Can we get this to occur just on install? So, we have our mods here, we have a library, and we have a library. The bottom left, we're going to scroll all the way to the bottom. The bottom right, we're going to scroll down just a couple. The top one, we're going to scroll all the way down. We're going to hit add. So here, we would expect to see everything installed. No, it's not. It's not. So even on this, we scrolled all the way to the bottom on this and then hit install, right? This one, we scrolled down a little. Only the stuff in view. Only some of the stuff in view actually got installed. Is it actually all installed? Yeah, it is. It is all actually installed. So I would say this means my theory about it being related to what's on screen or off screen may not be the case. That may not matter at all. And it may in fact be related to something else. Now what we do get in this system is a lot of really rapid updates. So what could be interesting is if we go into this delete. Let's go into the delete method in the library. Not delete, library, in my mods. Into the remove. And let's turn that into a bulk remove. Because that would result in one single update. Now, we can do that pretty easily. And that's why I'm saying we do that here. So if we go into library, loadout, grid, was it view model? Remove. Remove item command is set to this. So what we are currently doing is we are going through all the IDs. We are actually deleting these the correct way. We are doing this as one bulk delete. So it's not even a let's make sure that's accurate, because that would mean it doesn't even matter how many transactions we're throwing. It's not a problem of how many transactions come in and out of this thing. It's how much something else completely. Okay, so let's do our installed mods. And then we're gonna, we have everything installed, cool. So we're gonna select this, and what we'd expect to see in the log down below is a single delete command, like one transaction. And we do. So we hit that and it said 9,432 datums deleted. And then it found a bunch of changes for this loadout ID. And that's it. So this means it's not a problem with the rapidity of the updates, but in the processing of the updates. Let's look at the library item. We're going to stare at this a little bit. What is the difference between if it's activated or it's not? Because this never happens when it's on screen. When it's on screen, it does update properly. When it's off screen is when it doesn't work. When do we create these items? think we actually bulk create these items, right? Yeah, I know we do. So this code up here is always activated. Everything outside of the when model activated is executed when the item is created. When it is brought into view is when this activation happens. And this, we're looking at this linked loadout items, and we're looking for when the count of them changes. And then if the count is greater than 0, we set it to installed, otherwise it's not installed. Now this here, this get created at, would have died before, especially in connection with max. Well, now it wouldn't, because now it would actually include a because now it would include a specific max value. It would default to daytime max. Hello, DM Games. We're just doing some weird debugging today of UI code, and so far it's kind of kicking my butt. We're trying to link up a couple of, or figure out a couple things before we ship the next release. And this one's a pretty weird one. It's mostly a visual bug. Everything's working correctly, it just doesn't look like it because the UI isn't updating correctly. So here we're setting the install date, and then we're formatting that date accordingly. Now, if there was a lag between this updating and this, like if there was a race condition here, we might get a weird problem. But that would have been fixed by this get created at. So we updated earlier, the get created at now returns a default value of date time min. So we would get a max value there. Let's wrap this in a try catch with a I know we set this before to just stop on any exception. I don't know that always works in specific situations. So we're gonna try this again. See if we can get the error to happen again. Okay, so that's a normal one. We'll mute that error. We will ignore that error. That's just part of the normal startup. There's a couple places where exceptions are unavoidable. So we have our installed mods. We're going to select everything here. And then library, and add. Now, it wouldn't make sense if the problem was that get created at, because that would only matter during deletion. And I think this problem is, we're gonna ignore that error. Ignore that error, okay. Let's add our mods. Okay, and do we see the error? Okay, everything shows installed. This does not show installed. this does. So again, the rows that have not yet been loaded work. If the row has been loaded, well, not all of these showed up as not installed, right? It doesn't seem to be a recycling sort of issue. This is a weird one. To verify, let's go to our Nexus mods provider, data provider. So the way we present these rows is through this data provider. And we have like observe nested library items here, right? So this will create all of the library items off the bat the first time. So it's not a recycling problem because we're not recycling these models. We are recycling the rows that point to them, the UI elements that point to these library items, but not these items themselves. The rest of that updates properly. We did not get an error or a breakpoint on that code at all that we were looking at. And again, we know that the data is correct because it updates properly. It really is a problem with the binding. So I know we're thinking in circles here, or I am. That's part of the unfortunate part of debugging sometimes. It's going in like this circular thought process. But let's again start back at the beginning and figure out how we can simplify this issue. So, what do we know? We know that loaded rows sometimes fail. You know what? Let's make a scratch document. Markdown. No, that's not what I wanted. Goodness. Add new scratch file. Markdown. Okay. What we know. You know what, ChatGPT? Sometimes, like, we know that the first number is 1. No, that's not helpful at all. So, what we know is that non-loaded rows work correctly. Unload rows update their button status. Let's be explicit here. So non-loaded rows update their button status. Visible loaded rows update their button status correctly. Non-visible loaded rows do not update their button status correctly. If we assume that the problem is the attaching and detaching of the row control. And what I mean by that is, if it's a problem with library item model, if we look at this, when something attaches, this is called. Then later on, it will be detached. Is the problem that the reattaching does not correctly work? So model activation disposable, find usage, on disposing. When we dispose this, we dispose the model activation disposable. But nothing else disposes of this. So it's activated once. And then it says model when activated, and we hand it this block. is this being disposed properly? Because this could be a problem. Let's do debug dot right line, and then disposables dot dispose with what is it here? So we want to do disposable dot create, and there we go. So what we should see is these rows activate and deactivate, and what I would expect to see is that happen as we're scrolling through the data grid itself, because we're going to be binding the rows to and from the data grid as we go along. All right. So, what do we see in our debug view? Oh, we got to load it in debug mode. My bad. That's a known error. So we're in the library. Let's load up our debug output. So we see like a dozen of them activated. We should have probably put a little bit of information on there so we know what's happening. And as we scroll, we see things deactivated and reactivated. Okay. So if our problem is in reattachment of that model, that could be a serious problem. Let's add a little more debug data to this. This is a static, so we'll do model dot not linked loadout items, model dot fixed ID. Yeah, so we'll just add the so what we should see now is that if we scroll down or up, we will see a specific items be added or removed. Okay. So in our debug output, so ID 0, oh, because we're only ever in, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's a fake item, isn't it? Crap. What data do we have here? That is, we should have like model.name, right? Yeah, let's do that. That'll be a little more recognizable. So as we see these items go in and out of the grid, we should see them add and remove from the activated, deactivated. Cool. So now if we go to this debug output, okay, we see like looting quality of life go up. We activated a couple others, deactivated car dodge stutter fix, deactivated input loader. So the next one should be like native settings UI. Deactivate, okay, so like there's native, okay, so this, is it a problem of the activation? Like, is it a problem of like something getting activated twice in a row? Not sure that would matter, but let's Let's just see what we can figure out about that. Int activated count equals 0. When we activate, we are going to do interlocked dot increment the activated count, and we can't do model dot. We're going to do the activated count here. And then we're going to do the same thing, interlocked decrement. So for those who maybe aren't familiar, interlock uses a atomic operation in the CPU to verify, or not verify, but it'll increment. And even if someone else is trying to increment at the same time, the CPU guarantees that we are incrementing it only by 1. Because if you read a value, add it, and then write it back, someone else could have written a different value in that time, and you get a race condition. Okay, so debug output. Well, now we're getting nothing. That's great. Did we get a crash there or something? What's up with that? Oh, we didn't run in debug mode. My goodness, I'm having issues today. So we'll resume on that. All right, let's look at our debug view. So everything has a 1, 0, 1, 0, so forth. We would want to make sure that we never have 2 or negative 1, which I'm not sure is completely possible. But if we do this, I'm not seeing any sort of 2s or that sort of thing. So it's deactivated to 0 and it activates with 1. Good. That's good. We have some bit of sanity here. Bear with me 1 second. I will be right back. Just taking care of a couple things here real quick. Never really published links to cool. All right, switch back. Okay, so I'm pretty confident that we are getting the activation deactivation workflow or that process is working. Now that doesn't mean that this is linking up correctly when we reactivate again. So we have the ticker, and we are subscribing to that. So this linked loadout items. If this deactivates, let's try something. This won't be a very good, we don't want it this way long term. But if we don't do anything with this disposable, then we know that the observed count change, like this observable, will remain live. And it won't be very efficient, but we should be able to see if at any point there's like it's the detaching of this and the reattaching that's causing the problem. So we're just never going to detach, and then we'll see if that causes anything to work differently. So again, we'll do our 3 panels. We'll do installed mods there, and then library and library. This one we're going to scroll to the bottom, like load everything in. And then we're going to go here to here and remove. So everything's removed. This works. This works. This works. Huh? Uh-huh. Let's do that again. Library, library, library. This one we're going to scroll halfway down. This one we're going to scroll all the way to the bottom and add. Okay. Everything's installed. Everything's installed. Everything's installed. Everything's installed. I think we found a smoking gun. Awesome. So, this detaching breaks things. The only difference here is when we observe that this count has changed. So we have an observable dictionary of items. And this observable, find usages. So we're subscribing to this observable and pouring the results into the dictionary. When do we dispose this linked items disposable here? So this really is a problem of something detaching and not properly reattaching. So this is inside of this when model activated. Oh, so we're here, we're saying when this disposable is null, then we subscribe. But there's nothing setting this to null when it detaches. Is that a problem? I want to say it is. I suppose when we dispose here, linked items disposable. So this binding happens only once. Once when the model loads, we link the observable changed item. So the other thing we should look at is find usages of this. We did this before, but let's look at who creates this. What we're looking for is a case where we're creating a pipeline of changes, and that pipeline is destroyed when the last listener stops listening. So let's see, the Nexus mods provider. we create it here, and we get this linked loadout items thing. I think this will work just fine. I mean, we may eventually want to turn this into not just a observable. I don't know if this is a cold observable or a hot observable. Like, does it have data flowing through it just by existing or not? But we would need to consider that. But it is interesting that every time we reconnect to this collection, or to this item, we start reading again from the dictionary, but we only ever start writing into the dictionary. We only apply the changes once. Linked loadout items. I mean, I would assume that this just stays live and continues to update. So this says for every change, we'll add or remove the keys as expected. Oh, but here's another problem though. It's add or remove, not refresh. Is that a problem? The linked loadout items is an entity ID to a read-only. So if one of the items updates, that would be a good question. Is if we go here and we do debug.writeLine. Yeah, we'll just do that. So it'll complain about an unsupported change reason, if I can talk today. Because there could be cases where we get an updated value here. And in this specific case, it's the library items that are changing. Okay. So let's go to our library. And we look at our installed mods. I'm not sure that we had that. Did we take out that debug code that we put in? No, we did not. So we'll need to restart this to make sure that links up properly. One of the things I want to do long term on this project is I'm kind of unhappy with how all of this code is pretty complex, if you will, convoluted. We have to build these links of observables ourselves. I would like to find a way to improve that. Make it a little more declarative. Okay. We will ignore that error. Go to our debug output. We see all the activations. And now if we have any sort of strange library and mods. Okay. Now, if we have any sort of strange updates, I would expect to see that here. Cool. And then let's... Oh, we already have it added. So let's go ahead and go to here and do remove. I'm not seeing any... Did not see any updates. I don't think that's the problem. That the update logic there is incorrect. Although granted, okay, so the error is back. We have verified that removing that one line that detaches is in fact the problem. Now the question is, Here in this code, let's do this. We're going to do a two-statement lambda debug.writeLine, and we want to know what the change set is. How many changes? We should see all these go from like 1 to 0, 0 to 1, or just there'll be one update when this stuff happens, and we should expect to see 100 of these changes in this with this enabled. So what's happening here is we are looking at all of the items in the loadout that point to this library item, and then we're injecting those into a dictionary, pulling a count off of that, like getting a live count off of that, which then drives the rest of the UI. And that count is not updating specific situations. Specifically, once we dispose of this connection for the first time, once we stop looking once, when we come back, it's not updating. So what this will tell us right now, and you know what? Let's do it this way too. Debug.writeLine. We should see a difference here, and that like at some point we should see a whole bunch of changes to the input of the dictionary and none on the output, and that would really point to some of the errors that we're seeing. So, getting there. Know about that error. Let's go to our debug view. All right, so what we're going to do next is go to our installed mods. You know the real reason this bug exists, right? Is I just like showing off how fast it is to install mods. I'm joking. Okay. A lot of stuff changing through there. Okay. Load this back up. I don't know why that. Oh, we have a breakpoint here. We know about that. That faux mod breaks in this mode. Finish. Okay. So this did break. And what we should see here we see very few of these linked loadout items changed. What are the two messages going in? One of them is library item model. Oh, shoot. I named them the same thing. I don't know actually which one's which. Darn it. So we'll do read side, and then down here we'll do right side, changed with that number of changes. All right, so we'll do this again. And we go to the next one. There we go. Goodness. I was with that until the horror noises. Okay. So if we look at our mods, installed mods here. All right, so we got a whole bunch of installed mods. Now, we were saying before, scroll down, scroll up, do another one here. Go to library, so some of them aren't attached, and then we're just going to select everything in this view, and we're going to remove. And this is slow because of all the debug stuff. So we're getting a whole lot of right side changes, but the read side is very limited. In fact, we see about enough right sides. There's enough changes on the right side of this, but none on the read side. And then if we look up, that in fact broke, right? Yeah. You know, I wonder if this primes correctly. If we go to this library item model, and we say observe count changed, is that only when the count changes? Or is it prime itself with an initial value? Let us see. So we have a source, and it returns this observed count changed. When we do an initial subscribe to this, we get this observe collection count changed. And previous is the count. This is looking for add, remove, reset. Interesting. I think this might be it. If we go here and we say dot prepend model dot length loadout items dot count. So we're going to subscribe, but the first thing that we're going to output is how many items there are initially. This should recreate every time, and we would expect this count to work. Because I really think the issue is that we're keep injecting the updates into that backend collection, and the backend collection is correct, but when the row goes off the screen, we are unsubscribing, and then when it comes back into the screen, we're resubscribing, but we're not getting the initial count when that happens. So if we go to installed mods, we in fact have nothing installed. So let's do this library here and library. And once again, about halfway, we won't move it all on that one. This one obviously will go all the way to the bottom, and we'll add. That works. Everything's installed. Everything's installed. Everything's installed. That's it. Okay. So we're going to put a little comment here. Does this have a notify current count? Oh my gosh. Is that really, that's the problem, isn't it? Notify current count is true. And then down here it feeds notify current count. This is a decompiled C# code, which is why it looks a little wonky. But if we go here, when this starts off, if not, oh, yep, that's it right there. This all comes down to one single Boolean statement right here. So we're going to do that. And we're going to put a big fat comment on here that says, what the heck? Observe count changed defaults to not notifying the current count on a new subscription, because this chain will be destroyed, the current count, when we reactivate again. Rows in a tree data grid are virtualized, and so they will be repeatedly activated and deactivated. All right, so now we know that that's the problem. Oh my goodness. Okay. Now, if we have a problem here, I would assume that we also have the problem in the loadout item model. Do we have anything like that here? Like a collection, observable collection. Really, it's anytime we have an observable collection with a count on it. Size observable, toggle state command, get loadout item IDs, maybe. Count. Like we have a count on this, which is good. So if we go here to this library item model and find usages of the observed count. Roots. I think we want it here too. I don't know a case where we wouldn't want this, to be honest with you. So the library page. Yeah, anytime we're using an observable collection inside of a an activate or deactivate, which this is not. I think it's okay in that case. Library items. Okay, cool. It's interesting. Nexus mod page, library item model. I think we do it there as well. So it's like a couple of these places we do it correctly. It's this specific case here that it doesn't. So we have an adapter here when activated. Yeah, we want it here as well. Cool. Well, that is that bug squashed. So, first of all, let us undo some of the spurious changes we have added in, like this one here. We want to roll back all our 3 extensions. We want to roll back, let's see, tree grid data adapter, that's fine. Same thing here, we added some a diagnostics thing that we don't need anymore, so we'll roll back the data mod provider. It's all the library, the view models and stuff that we have. Cool. Cool, cool, cool. All right, so let's create a fixed the problem of off screen rows not updating when installed and removed from a loadout. Off screen library load rows. And then we will commit these files and we'll create a pull request for this too. All right. So the pull request is fix off screen row updates in the library. Description. The installed status of a row is dependent on the number of, and it's dependent, isn't it? Yeah. On the number of connected loadout items. Observe collection of observed count changed does not notify of the current count on a subscription. By default. So when a row was activated, was reactivated. The count, the install status of the row defaulted to the status when it was last seen on screen, and would only update if the status changed again in the future. This PR adds notify, what is it called? Notify of current value. To these invocations to fix this problem. Cool. All right, so now we can create a pull request for this. We can request a view or a review of the developers. Cool. I think that was the main. I think that actually fixes all of the issues that were holding us back for this release, because the two main issues were bulk installs don't always install everything. They do, but that was, you know, the way it looked to users. The second issue was that bulk deletion didn't work, and now both of those do. We've done that. Just for fun, let's do it a couple more times to make sure that it in fact works as expected. Because as we've seen, it's really weird. It's like there's like default state here, but this is a good debugging session. I like this. Okay, so let's add a couple more things here. Again, we're going to go to our, not the library, we're going to do installed mods. And then what we're going to do is library and library. This one we're going to scroll halfway. This one we're going to scroll to the bottom. Select, go all the way to the top. Actually, no, we're just gonna go all the way to the bottom on this one. So we haven't moved this one at all. We moved this one to the bottom. This one we've moved all the way, like halfway down. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna select all of the mods here and delete them. Cool. So what we see here is everything is uninstalled. We see here everything is uninstalled, and here we see everything is uninstalled, which means it works. Again, because for all of these the rows are loaded now, if we add this all, we'll get that full mod install again. Boom. That works. Everything's installed here. Everything's installed here. Everything's installed here. Awesome. Love it. Cool stuff. Okay, well that PR's up. It's a shorter stream today, but I got started late, and it is past noon here, and I normally eat about an hour ago. So I'm going to end the stream for today. Thanks so much for hanging out and being my... For those who don't know, in programming, there's the concept of rubber ducking, which is, you know, sometimes just having someone to explain code to is a big help. So the joke is if you get a rubber duck, you set it on your desk and you explain all your problems to the rubber duck, and then, you know, halfway through explaining it, you'll come to the realization of what you did wrong. So thank you all for being the rubber duck for my programming today. And yeah, good stuff. I hope to start earlier in future days, but it's just today was crazy getting some stuff set up. And we're kind of dual streaming as well on Twitch and YouTube, and getting it set up to stream on the Nexus's YouTube site, which we did today. So yeah, it's great. Thank you everyone for stopping by, and we'll see you again tomorrow.